Hello, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. We're glad you could make it in today. Our first guests are Julie Watson and Paul Benjaman. They're here to talk about Live from Cain's. That's a new radio show. It's a concept being recorded in the historic Cain's Ballroom. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Well, we're tickled to death to have you. A little bit about the show. Tell me about it.
Sure. We actually tried to get this concept off the ground right before COVID, and obviously took a little bit of a break during that time, but kind of wanted to revisit the fact that the history at the Cain's Ballroom is live music and live radio with Bob Wills, which I know Paul knows a lot about. And so we're trying to create a show that broadcasts from that historic venue all over for national public radio. And that's the start. So we have some national touring artists, and they're backed by our house band, and this is Paul Benjaman, our house band leader. So
sweet.
It's been a lot of fun so far. Yeah. A lot of fun and high adventure.
Let me know if you ever need a Garrison Keillor, man. I'm your dude. I'm your dude. We have a lot of musicians here struggling. COVID just stomped them.
yeah.
And gigs were really knocked out right and left. And it was a long time, it was a long time for them to come back. You have a relief fund that you're kind of behind on this?
We actually don't, but we did. Red Dirt Relief, I guess
we do a lot of work with the Red Dirt Relief Fund. Headed up by Katie Dale.
Right.
And during the pandemic, they really helped a lot of musicians out by giving them awards of money. They helped me out a little bit too. When everything was shut down, there were no gigs to be had. They really stepped up and helped fill the banks, and helped out with everybody's rent during that period of time.
Well, we need to stress too, we're talking all kinds of musicians, from classical to pop to hip hop to jazz. They're all encompassed here, and they're all in the same boat.
And not only that, but we've touched on like the people in the industry too. The photographers at the show, the sound men, the crew. Red Dirt Relief Fund really branched out and helped out so many people from across the entire music industry of Oklahoma.
And we have a basket full of really gifted players.
Definitely.
We really do, yeah.
Living here. And I think the word got out that, well, it's just Tulsa that's hurting. No, they're hurting all over the country.
Yeah.
But at least we have an effort underway to kind of help them some of them over the rough spots.
Yeah, we were really fortunate during COVID. We kind of pivoted quickly to do live streams, so we were able to do COVID-safe live streams and support some of the local musicians that way, which is kind of one of the things we did too, out of the Cain's green room, so that we could pay performers and pay the sound techs and the engineers, and that was something we were excited to be able to do as well.
And Oklahomans were really kind and responded to that. We would post our PayPal or our Venmo accounts and things like that, and we were sent cash donations from people all over the state. So Oklahomans can really step up and help out.
Yeah, they can. And it's ironic. A friend of mine and his group just recently put out a new CD, and they're trying to get the word out, that these are jazz musicians that have played everywhere. You pick it, they've been there. But golly, it's tough going, even for established pros.
Yeah. We were talking about those difficulties and the changes in music. Paul's been experiencing that a lot. He's working on a new album and kind of thinking about how to get that out there with those things in mind too.
How do you find people responding to this when they find out we have such gifted musicians here, such as yourself? You even worked with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, didn't you?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in 2014. I was touring with an act, the Secret Sisters, and we did play on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. It was really cool. They flew us into New York, and we cut the show in an evening. Flew us back the very day after. But people are always surprised. They're always surprised to find out about how much talent we have. We have that, and then just wide diversity of musicians we have living in the state.
It's intriguing
that are in the
to me
music
that
industry.
You really, if they don't go to the clubs, they don't really seem to know, or the symphony or the philharmonic or whatever, if they don't attend those, they don't really understand the quality of musicians that we have residing here. And a lot of them, and you know what I'm talking about with this, a lot of them hold other jobs just to make ends meet. So the Red Dirt Relief Fund is a major player in, you know, in supporting them.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. It's helped us out a lot. Yeah.
How does the show work at Cain's?
Well, we have it's open. It's taped in front of a live audience, so it feels like a concert experience. And we have a host who's Fats Kaplan right now, who's a Nashville musician that's played with Jack White, among other people. And then we have our house band, which is led up by Paul and a group of super talented, just like you're talking about, Tulsa and some Oklahoma musicians in general. And then we feature like a nationally touring act usually, and they will be backed by our house band. And there'll be some conversation, but basically it's a really great night of music. And then we'll take that product and it's placed on public radio stations, and we're working on developing that.
You just mentioned Jack White. You know, there's a name that a lot of folks aren't aware of if they're not into the music scene, and Jack has been all places. And now, I can't quite put this together, but he's with the Pickers, traveling around, you know, doing little Picker shows.
Is that right? He's
So
always
you don't know
did
where
something
he's going to
exotic.
turn up,
Yeah.
but this guy's a major producer that moved here some time back very quietly and opened a studio. And I mean, you want something produced, go to him.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Tulsa
There
musically.
is. There's a lot of activity going on. Yeah.
What about the
it's an
youngsters?
exciting time.
Do you have many youngsters come in that would like to be part of the music scene, and they're not quite sure how to break into it?
That's a good question for Paul. He kind of mentors people, I feel like, through your teaching and through your gig at the Colony.
Yeah, and we're having more and more musicians move around from around the area. Yeah. I was just talking to Julie earlier about a friend of mine that I've recently made, and he and his friends moved down, I think from maybe Utah, maybe somewhere around in there. And now he's playing pedal steel for several, you know, Nashville touring acts and things like that. But it's about, you know, with Tulsa, it's still about kind of the older style way of doing things, you know, whereas the newer style is, well, you have a LinkedIn profile, you're this professional and you're networking online and networking and online. Not that we don't have that, but it's still about just kind of going to the clubs, making friends with the people in the band, you know, attending the shows, talking, asking around, and that's usually where you make most of your connections, is actually being at the shows, yeah, and talking to people
What's
there.
the turnout like when you have a show at Cain's? I mean, is it pretty good size?
Well, we had one of their first ones when we got back started again was with John Fulbright. We featured John, which worked both as a nationally touring act and a local musician, great friends with all these guys. And we had a pretty full house. That was a great night, actually. It filled up the Cain's. It was really fun.
There are a couple of books out dealing with Cain's, which, by the way, is locally owned. I don't want you to get the
Yeah.
impression it's owned by some entity out of town. It is a locally owned venue right now, and ideal spot. If you haven't been there, you need to go see it. I tell people, go look for the ghost light, because Cain's has a ghost light still. You know, when the place is empty, they keep a light on stage. Well, you know the legends behind that. What can folks do who are tuning in to hear the two of you talk right now about the scene that musicians have to live through, to exist? What can they do to support them?
That's a great question. Well, obviously, you've talked about Red Dirt Relief, which is a nonprofit and takes donations, and that money is directly helping everything from someone whose car has gotten stolen to health crisis. That's a really easy, straightforward way to do it. Paul may have some other ideas. I think going out and supporting your local musicians and seeing shows, maybe.
That's really what it's about. Is, you know, if you can, you know, if you can stand a little bit of late night hours, you know, going out and entertain yourself in the evening. It's really about, you know, the number one thing is going to the shows and supporting the bands, and then, you know, then you're entertained. And then at the same time, you're supporting a scene that is going to love you back, you know, forever.
Big arms around you.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good to hear. Are we still getting an influx of musicians from other towns?
Oh, we are, yeah. It's growing. Word about Tulsa is really spreading around, not only through television programs like Tulsa King or radio programs that are featured on NPR, like our program. Several cuts from the Live from Cain's radio show are videotaped, and they make it to the NPR live sessions. And the NPR live sessions we're getting number ones on there, aren't
quite a
we?
bit,
like
actually.
the most watched those videos.
Yeah.
And Julie does a lot to help out with the distribution and promotion of that footage.
Well,
and
look,
so people are moving to town, yeah.
if you need us, if there's anything we can do to help on this end, pick up the phone and give us a buzz, because
Thank
we'd love to
you.
be a part of supporting it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you
know,
so
if
much.
you got special shows coming up, let us know. I'll be glad to plug it in here.
We will. Thank
And
you.
we'll try and get, some advertising in for you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
both for coming in.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more right after this.